what I'd like to do today is just give a bit of background on the ACT, a brief history of the office, my functions, looking at the future, some lessons over 20 years, because we've been that long in existence, and some of the ingredients that helped us progress sustainability. As I said, the ACT is this little tiny bit here. It's virtually a city-state. It's home of our national capital, Canberra, and our federal parliament. It also has its own jurisdictional parliament, which is the Legislative Assembly. And it's the Minister for Environment in that Legislative Assembly that I report to, and who also provides a lot of support for us. The ACT is actually, I was going to say square kilometres, but I understand square miles is better, so about 907 square miles. 60% of which is set aside for conservation purposes. So that would be to the west, 45% is a national park, and then our Canberra Nature Park, which is actually woven through and around the city. The ACT is exceptionally progressive. For example, we have greenhouse gas reduction targets from 1990 levels of 40% by 2020 and 80% by 2050. We also have legislative targets for for renewable energy, which is 90% by 90% by 60% by 2020, and we're well on the way to that. The other thing is the government has committed to carbon neutrality in its own operations by 2020, and for the whole of the ACT by 2060. Just a brief outline of the history. In 1993, the Commission for the Environment Act was implemented. It followed closely behind the Rio Earth Summit. There was bipartisan support, so the timing was right for continuing commitment. Over time, there was changes to both our legislation and the government's legislation. Importantly, the government legislation in 2003 specifically mentioned ecologically sustainable development, and also committed the government to address in some way the need for ecologically sustainable development. So it was a commitment to effectively triple bottom line reporting, and also to not just current generations but future generations. There was finally in 2012 there were some changes to our legislation, but that reflected some activities that happened in 2007 when extra funding was provided to the office. So lessons and valuable insights. I think the lessons are, I'll get to those after. This is the functions of the Commission. So in 2012, the functions in the Act were changed. They included very specifically ecologically sustainable development rather than just an Environment Commissioner. It became a Sustainability Commissioner. But that was literally in practice from about the end of 2007. So the functions as of 2012 are to investigate complaints, so anyone can complain to the Commissioner, not only about the way the Territory manages the environment, but also related to ecologically sustainable development. I think that's quite an important function. As our ACT Ombudsman said, complaints are a river of gold. They actually provide a wealth of information and are absolutely free. And as far as I'm aware, not too many commissioners' functions in other jurisdictions have that complaint capacity. Then, of course, there's the investigations. They are normally done by, obviously by the Commissioner, but they're very resource intensive. They're a very thorough and comprehensive look at particular environmental issues that are either of concern to the government or concern to the community or both. We've done 7 of those over 20 years. Complaints, 109 over 20 years. And then state of environment reports. State of environment reports are probably our biggest report. They have the longest history. They're almost our flagship. They also cause us a bit of grief in terms of what you put in them and what you leave out. Are they just a report on the state of our natural environment, or are they actually a sustainability report? And we have leaned towards sustainability reports since the first commission. And the last role is advocacy. So I would have to say that it's a very important one, and which is why I was quite interested in how you engage publicly, because it's always a bit of a problem for us. We seem to get the interest groups. As to the future, it's something we're creating now. It's not something in the future. It's not a destination. We are creating it now. Challenges of committing to long-term future-oriented action. I think that's been well spoken about today. There's not. It's not easy to go past short-term thinking. For us, we did in 2011 for the ACT State of Environment Report a paper on horizon scanning, which was to look at plausible futures for the ACT 20 years out. There was no easy answer. Clearly we need planning and resilience, but it wasn't so much what was in the paper as what process was used to develop it, and that was a very inclusive, very accessible place to hold it, and also the engagement of younger people. The essential ingredients for success, clearly in all cases, adequate funding is absolutely essential. The first 2 commissioners were part-time, they were overworked, they weren't supported.
Yeah, I don't think that.
And their comment literally was, we are so tied up doing state of environment reports that we do not have the time or the resources for community outreach, which is a critical part of our role. We also need internal and external accountability. Internally, I've opened the office to our government internal auditors. Externally, we have a reporting process where all our activities are reported in our annual report. Taking a longer term vision and projects, clearly that's why we're all here. And the inaugural commissioner was to do a state of environment report with no guidance. He came up with a fantastic idea that the environment, state of environment was all about ecology, ecologically sustainability, so he kind of locked every one of us in for the next 20 years, and we still use that output, that ecologically sustainable development. Now it's written into the Act, and it's quite clear. But there was a man 20 years ago who had the vision to say, this is what our environment means. And the State of Environment report was never just, how green is our grass. Collaboration with stakeholders across sectors, critical. If you can't engage with the people that count, then you don't have a representative report. What you have is your opinion. And people don't actually want my opinion. I'm just the voice for their views. So there's a lot of expertise that you need, and clearly engagement with the community is a critical part of what we do. And access to technical experts and independent advisors, that's when you get the scientists in, that's when you get people to help you sort out fact from fiction. This one may surprise some of you, but actually keeping a balance between assessing and challenging the government and holding them to account, and working with ministers and the bureaucracy is quite a balance. When I do it, I always think my mandate is independence, but to promote sustainability. That's the way I think. Managing expectations of government and community. Quite often community expect that you have the answer. They're welcome to come and provide their view, but we need a system to filter through to ensure that it's genuine. Building and maintaining a public profile, another critical aspect. Peter's very, very much like that. My predecessor was exceptionally good at it, as was the Victorian Commission. Some of us are a little bit shy, so you have to push yourself to try and to actually improve your profile. It's not always that easy. Mind you, when you sit in a position like this, you will always get support. Progress and relevance. This is really how we got to where we are and how we stay where we are. Not only do you have to plan strategically, you have to be aware of what's happening around you, locally, nationally and internationally. We need to deliver clear messages. I think it was Professor Korn from the university here in Cardiff who was saying, you have to start to talk to people about what affects them. The doomsday messages are no longer appropriate, which is around the positive language. Remain politically engaged. You have to deal with the political side as well as the public side. If you lose the support of your political, in my case, my minister, then you cannot function effectively. And continually, recognise our significant leadership role. That's a given. We are often used as the honest broker, both for government and for community. And continually assess performance. This is about making sure you keep looking to see that you're current, up-to-date and functioning as you are supposed to be. And finally,